back to the panelists. I am really thrilled to welcome Erato, Jeremy, and Alberto from Blueground, Bob W, and Casai. So hello, guys.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, guys. I will just ask you for a quick introduction, starting by Erato.
Good afternoon. My name is Erato Tsirikos, and I'm representing Blueground as the Enterprise Account Manager for EMEA. Blueground is a global PropTech company offering a curated network of thousands of quality, turnkey, fully furnished apartments in major cities around the world for stays of a month minimum, a year or more. The company started in 2013, and today we have over 5K apartments in 50 cities globally.
It's absolutely impressive, Erato. Over to you, Jeremy.
Well, it sounds like Bob W's got some catching up to do. We're not quite there yet, but we're close behind. I'm Jeremy. Nice to meet everyone on the call. I work for a company called Bob W, which started in 2019, which is a climate negative technology business operating service departments. Our aim is to combine the best of both worlds, hence Bob W, B-O-B-W. We want the quality standards, services, amenities of a sort of lifestyle hotel, coupled with the authenticity of and functionality of a sort of traditional Airbnb. So somewhere in the middle, best of both worlds. I've been at the company for just a few months now, but been in this industry starting at a very cool company called AltoVita about 4 years ago.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Really an amazing expert. So thank you so much for joining us today. And Alberto?
Hi there, everyone. I'm Alberto Ramos. I'm Chief Revenue Officer of Casai. Casai it started in 2019 with the aim of transforming hospitality by combining both the locality and uniqueness of service departments with the standards and design of a boutique hotel, and enabling all of that through technology. So Casai comes from Casa Inteligente. We started in Mexico City. Now we've expanded to over 7 destinations in Mexico and Brazil, with over 600 apartments operating right now, and already over 1,200 more slated to launch early next year. And our goal really is to sort of export the amazing hospitality of Latin America, which, if you've been there, has a unique sense of this, to the entire world.
Thank you so much, Alberto. You guys are here precisely because you have recorded an amazing growth in the most difficult times for the hospitality industry. So Blueground is managing, as Erato says, 5K apartments in 15 cities. That's incredible. Bob W has secured an early seed investment and is fueling its growth as well in new destinations. And Casai has made their second acquisition in the last 6 months. So that's absolutely impressive. I just wanted to ask then to kick off the discussion, starting by Erato, what do you think that really has fueled the growth in the last 2 years of the pandemic?
So with that kind of change and uncertainty that we're facing worldwide as a shock, obviously, automatically, I think people needed, first of all, change for when we had the lockdown initially. So automatically, they were needing to also consider other areas that they would want to stay, A. B, I would say that because exactly we were working from home, we had to, again, reevaluate as companies exactly where we would be working and where we would be staying. So all of this has definitely made a shift in terms of where we want to go and to reshuffle everything from ground zero, I would believe. And that's been shown even in the business model, but also on what we receive from inquiries, from companies, partners. It's really quite uncertain.
Mm-hmm. Of course, but yeah, it's clear that the work from anywhere trend, as well as demand for longer stay, has definitely benefited the service department and alternative accommodation as well models. So that's probably as well where I would turn to Jeremy and ask for his vision. What has fueled the growth of Bob W over the last months?
Yeah, I would say that I would agree completely with Erato with what she summarized there. I also do think that COVID's a little bit of a red herring here, in that I think a lot of this growth was happening anyway. There's huge demand for branded apartments, offering the amenities and consistency of hotels, but with the facilities of an apartment or a house. That demand was there already, and that's grown throughout COVID. Maybe there was some acceleration with people staying longer, for sure, but it was there already. And you know, the common thing that often comes up on these extended stay calls is things like cleaning standards. But yes, cleaning is really important, but these standards were always a need for a customer. So maybe it's the communication of those standards which is more important than the actual cleaning itself. But yeah, we've seen a really decent demand from guests throughout COVID. Obviously, there was some price adjustments that needed to be made, and revenue strategy had to be adapted to a very new market. But what we're seeing now is a really good comeback in tourism, and a mixture of so the B2B guests are coming and staying ostensibly for business travel, and then potentially extending their stay for a leisure portion of their stay as well. But markets like Madrid, for example, that we launched a couple of months ago, I mean, we're still in the ramp up phase, but the demand was just there immediately, not just from the domestic market, which we did expect initially, but from international countries like the US and the UK. So people want to go traveling again, that's for sure.
That's hopefully that trend is gonna stay here, even with the newest variant, where we reported that there's been a little bit of a dip, especially in the month of November. But fingers crossed that as of next year, it's gonna go well. And Alberto, so from your perspective, what has really fueled the growth, and what were the drivers behind Casai growth in Latin America?
Yeah, so I completely echo Jeremy and Erato on all the points. Specifically to Jeremy's point, like we had created this vision in early 2019 because we saw this trend. What I do think that COVID played a role in is accelerating the change on several aspects. I mean, for one, it increased the need of flexibility on all fronts from all types of guests, including corporate things like, everything from price flexibility to, to cancellation, checking policies, all kinds of things where, at least in Latin America, hotels were slow to react to. And I think that pushed a lot of very, very sort of traditional corporate clients to try out models that they weren't willing to try out before, because they had to. After trying them out, I think we've been seeing in our corporate accounts over 90% quarter-on-quarter retention, which shows that like once you try out the model, you don't want to go back to the traditional way of doing things. Another thing that I think has fueled our growth a lot is there has been a boom on a lot of startups in LATAM. Actually, in Mexico, I believe it was last week that 3 new unicorns were minted in 1 week, coming from Mexico, not having any unicorns until last year. So it really younger people, newer companies are more likely to try this model, and as they grow, we grow. Last thing I would like to add is that what we've seen that's been incredible is that we've had all kinds of events coming up in Mexico City specifically, with groups of 40, 60 people coming in for conferences, trade shows, New Year's parties, everything that you can imagine. And again, I think that was the last battleground of hotels, because like, of course, we don't have a conference room inside of our property. But like once you start seeing those start to move out, I think it is really, really increasing our hopes for the future of the industry.
It's really great to hear, and it's impressive that you all spoke about that the necessity to really bring essentially create a big brand, which is being recognized in the apartment sector across the borders. So my next question would be, what do you think is really a key requirement in order to bring that strong brand and communicate it to the B2C or B2B customer, so everyone knows that you're there representing quality standards? Erato?
So let me get this straight. The question would be in regards to what needs to be set as expectations for B2C and B2B customers based on the flexibility that we discussed for all cities, right?
Yes, or even in general, what do you think that a big brand on the service department level requires in order to really be known in the sector by the customers?
Okay, so I would believe that the consistency feeling of any kind of unit throughout all cities is something important. So being able to know that, let's say, where you're staying in a Blueground, let's say, apartment, even if it's going to be in Athens, or if it's going to be in London, or even in Seattle and in Denver, for example, you would know that you're actually in the same consistent feeling, operation-wise, process-wise, that you're covered. So the security in terms of the same company operates the same way worldwide, I would also believe that the furniture and the feeling of the apartment where you're staying is important. So although obviously in residential units and buildings, it may vary based on each market, the actual presentation on your website or on the actual presenting of a bid is the same, would also be very important. So exactly, they know that the standard amenities are the standard for everything. So standardization will also be very key, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I will come back to that question about standardization, because in my eyes, that's an incredible work to standardize the
consistency, let's say,
across 15 different cities, and also particularly if you do not manage the entire building, that's quite of an undertaking. So then we can come back to it as well. But what would be your thought, Jeremy, on the question, the key requirements?
I mean, there's lots of things that one needs to do to communicate your brand, particularly in a time like this where expectations are so high. One of the things that Bob W did at the very beginning of the COVID pandemic was reevaluate cleaning standards. But as I said before, it wasn't that the cleaning was already good. We were already using our ops app. We were already doing checklists. We were already doing supervisions, spot checks, all the things that everyone on this call does. But what we did was do a big marketing campaign about it. The Bob W ridiculously clean standard, which is still quite prominent on our website, and also physically in the property. And when I first saw this, I thought, oh, it's a little bit gimmicky, but actually it's highly effective. Is we put a yellow seal on all of the doors. Mm-hmm. So when you arrive at your Bob W property, you're not only greeted by all the Bob W standards, like a neon sign, beautiful furnishings, etc., but also a seal on the door, and that's the seal of quality. Another way that we communicate what the apartments actually look like, because obviously there's a big issue in some elements of the sort of short stay sector of apartments not really reflecting reality. You know, the photos that can look great, you can make a gray sky look blue with the right Photoshop skills, but obviously we want to be showing off our apartments. But one thing we do, particularly when we're ramping up a new building, is to get as many influencers into the buildings as possible, staying and doing stories. And their mandate is not really refined, you must show this, this, and this. We just want them to actually show all the rooms. So that's, I guess, building trust with potential future customers that what they're seeing in these videos reflects the reality.
I love it. And the fact that basically a lot of the companies that we keep interacting on a daily basis actually have amazing quality monitoring standards. But I guess that over the last 2 years, we had to learn how to communicate this better and best, especially with our clients who are continuously asking us also as RFP processes, how the process has been strengthened and how is it being monitored on a daily basis to precisely make the difference with, as your background says, the random rentals. Probably if we move to on to Alberto, what would be the key takeaways from for you?
So I think right now as an industry, we are in the stage where we're really focusing on consistency and trust. And that comes from the fact that, our predecessor was not great on trust. They actually, has been a lot on the news that it is a big issue for them. But what we realized a lot is that the importance of creating an experience and the personal connection, which if none of this is news, I mean, it's the same thing as in the entire hospitality industry, but it is the difference. I mean, a couple of interesting facts. We've ran tests where in our communications, we just say Casai instead of Alberto at Casai is talking to you from a customer experience team, and that visibly changes scores and visibly changes the quality of conversation. So for us, the idea is to use technology not to remove the human element, but to let our human agents focus specifically on connection, specifically on on building that trust, building that relationship to create experiences. And ultimately for us, that is the goal. We think not only for Casai, but for the entire industry, when someone thinks of any of these brands, they think of an incredible experience and they think of, oh, I want to have this amazing experience again, and not just, but obviously for that to happen, it's a little bit like the Maslow pyramid of needs. Like we also have a philosophy of, like, we call it the 5-minute rule. Like if anything bad happens in the first 5 minutes of the stay, then it doesn't matter what you add on top. So having a solid foundation, but then the purpose of that is to build this feelings-based relationship with the guest.
I know that you're very keen on technologies, on technology, and technology is also your differentiator. Can you elaborate which areas you're leveraging on technology the most? Is it guest experience or internal processes? Where would you see the key benefits?
So where we're most focusing on technology right now is on the internal processes, and the reason for this is that. Sorry, it's a bit noisy outside. The reason for this is that we take guests from a wide range of different types of backgrounds. Some people do not like technology in their experience; it actually detracts value for them. But what everybody can appreciate is a seamless and perfect experience. So we have early detection systems and controls for smart lock batteries, for smoke alarms, noise. We're implementing heater sensor technology to make sure that if a heater turns off or has any problems, we automatically detect it and fix it. Wi-Fi is constantly being monitored. So the idea is that the moment that a problem happens, you don't even realize it. Somebody comes and fixes it and tells you have this problem before you even realize it exists. And then also, enabling through data analysis, pitch perfect pricing, pitch perfect shifts, maintenance, everything, with the purpose of creating a perfect experience 100% of the time. We're still far from that goal, of course, but it is the vision that we're striving towards.
I just would like to drive everyone's attention as well on the Wi-Fi monitoring, because I absolutely love it. It's basically, can you elaborate how that works internally? Because that really made me excited from our perspective. Usually if the Wi-Fi doesn't work, because our client mostly still work from home, it's a disaster. So that's an amazing tip for everyone.
Yeah, so basically we have implemented technologies that basically allow us to constantly being pinging and monitoring all the Wi-Fi networks that we have. The moment where we see any issues where the connectivity may go down or may go up or X or Y reason, we automatically send the ticket to our support team so that they can work on it. If needed, we can rebalance internally our network loads to make sure that everything works. And this happens 24/7. So we do have 24/7 support for it. So we know every single time that something happens, if at any point signal goes out, which may affect connectivity to smart devices, We do a maintenance of that as well. And the next goal for us to do this also with other key devices in the apartment. So the idea is that before you know there's a problem, we're already there fixing it.
It's incredibly thoughtful. Thank you for sharing, Alberto. Jeremy, what's your take on technology, and how do you think you can leverage on technology in order to optimize processes and make the guest experience standardized?
Yeah, absolutely. So Bob W also, we pitch ourselves as a technology hospitality company. And people often ask, okay, you're managing service departments. Well, how is that technology at all? But everything we're doing is driven by our hospitality engine. So everything from the operations, our operations app, booking engine, the guest journey, upselling, loyalty, everything's driven by our tech. And our aim is to provide our guests with the last check-in ever, so that they have a self-service app where they can see apartment information, they can see the local gym that they can use for free, they can book their breakfast, they can order a fridge fill, they can see their entry codes for the building, they can see the Wi-Fi codes, even integrating with Spotify. So there's a playlist in each location that sort of is made by a local producer that is the tunes of the location. But it's also from a sort of financial perspective, it allows us to upsell products as well. Particularly important are sort of 100% margin products, such as early check-ins, late checkouts, apartment upgrades. All of this can be done within the guest app. But the most important thing is giving the guest a really easy place to contact us. We don't want people to be in that situation where you're worrying about, okay, I've got an issue, who do I speak to solve it? So they can immediately speak to our team on whatever channel they like, SMS, WhatsApp, phone, email, and receive a response in less than 10 minutes.
The multi-channel communication is extremely interesting for both the B2B, I guess, and B2B perspective, for sure. It's part of the standardization and also the client expectation that they will get 24 support, no matter what, and also in which country the property is. Now, going back to the standardization, Erato, how do you understand the standardization from your perspective? Is it more about the design, or is it driven by technology?
I would say both. So for example, you have one single interface in all our cities that keeps the experience seamless, first of all. So that's something important in terms of actually seeing the properties from the actual visit on the Blueground website. You would be having not only the pictures, but also the 3D video tour. You can, of course, browse local apartments with criteria. So depending on that, you may have different amenities for Dubai, for example, compared to Athens or compared to London. Like maybe you have a unit, a residential unit for Paris where they don't have an elevator, or like parking is not something standard, but you have to still present and set that expectations. Moving forward through the actual stay, obviously, 24/7 support is vital. And obviously you need to have a point of contact to be more personalized, as Alberto mentioned, and as Jeremy said, to be fast. So any kind of mobile app, just as we also have to cover their needs from in the first minutes in actually visiting the units, or even prior, to have check-in instructions, where the logbox is, or where the key nest is, or in any case, it's something as a contactless check-in, as we do multiply in the US. Varies and changes based on having that standard that we want and giving 1, 2, 3 options beforehand for these kind of B2B clients, so they know what to expect. Moving forward, of course, any questions for cleaning, let's say something for maintenance, as a possible extension, having this all as a seamless experience throughout any kind of Blueground unit, I would say is standardized. Plus, trying to also like cover any kind of digital nomading from one city to the other, either within the actual country, the US in this case, or among other countries in the EMEA, is again something where we interrelate internally exactly to know where we need to cover how in a smooth manner. So yes, the seamless experience is very vital to be done through a mobile app and to have that kind of quick response. Online bookings would be, again, something that could be considered seamlessly done for any kind of option to have a user-friendly experience and the breakdown in setting expectations. And of course, there's the ranking of urgency of requests, depending on the 24/7 support to see exactly what needs to be done and how we can be there for our guests.
Thank you so much, Erato. And also from the, I mean, you mentioned the 3D experience for the user. From our perspective, we have definitely recorded a higher demand for 3D tours, precisely because it helps to manage client expectations, especially, for example, the US travelers coming into Europe. Like you mentioned, Paris is definitely a difficult market as well. There's not always an elevator or like a large fridge in the apartments, right? So that's definitely part of the process, to be very transparent with the client. I wanted to ask you, from your experience, what are the biggest kind of cultural differences when managing the rentals, for example, in EMEA and in the US? Is there any large experience from the not necessarily quality standard, but from the furnishing perspective or design perspective, or just how the business is run? Are there any key differences?
So in this case, in terms of furnishing and interior design, it's standardized and internally created and covered by our supply chain team. Mm-hmm. So obviously, this is something that, yes, whatever we have as a design, let's say sofa in Los Angeles would also be in Vienna. Mm-hmm. Or even the background, let's say paintings would be, again, designed by internally, right? So apart from that, I would not be so much worried in terms of the furniture, but more in terms of what XYZ building can actually offer and what the city expectation, what each city can offer. So because we have residential units, and it's actually in residential buildings, automatically, this means that we may have one unit in a skyscraper in Dubai, or it could be one unit or 5 units in a building in London, right? So automatically, these would be needed to be stressed that Vienna, let's say, does not have air condition, let's say, mm-hmm. Whereas for an inquiry for Dubai, we need to have air conditioner. It's a standard to have amenities like gym and a pool. So that kind of explaining, I think, would be the differences and the gaps between cities as we operate, or like parking. It's not that easy to be done in London compared to maybe the option of having an add-on upselling for the US. Mm-hmm. I would say those are the challenges based on what we're facing and what we have been experiencing until now in the business relationships.
Yeah.
And of course, check-ins, right? Check-ins again may vary. Istanbul, let's say we may want to have a check-in with a meet and greet, or even Paris. But in the US, even though we may be in COVID era nowadays, it's something that is more contactless, right? So even those kind of changes, we have to, of course, be flexible and customize based on that, always with the standard of giving what we expect on our highest quality level.
Mm-hmm. So then basically, even if there may be some cultural differences or localization, depending on where the assets are located, there's always going to be this strong communication from your team to let the guests know in advance what type of property they are getting, or what the surroundings is going to be, because that's really what makes the difference from your perspective.
Okay. So property truths, yes, those kind of details, exactly to know, like, this is an option that we have without an elevator. This is an option that it's not the standard of Dubai standard, but in terms of the local standard, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. No, that's extremely interesting. Are you, Jeremy, experiencing something similar with all your locations? I know that you're currently present in Madrid, London, Helsinki, and Tallinn.
Yeah, so an interesting recent example we had of cultural differences that we had to sort of be quite nimble to react to was we one of our Bob W brand standards across multiple locations is that we have the Nordic style beds, which I don't know whether you've experienced sleeping in a Nordic style bed. It's it's you basically have it's a normal sized double bed, but you have two separate duvets, so there's no fighting over the duvets when you're staying in the Nordics. And we actually we rolled this out, and also you have these different shaped pillows as well. And we implemented this in Madrid, and our local Madrid general manager Claudia was a little bit skeptical at first, and we waited for the feedback, and the guests told us it's not what they want, so we had to change. I actually think it's an amazing idea. You don't have to share a duvet with someone, but, so we had to flip back to the Spanish standards there.
And generally, can just Jeremy remind us in terms of the Bob W concept, what would be the key USP of the apart hotel?
Ooh, big question. So as Erato said, there has to be standardization across units to some extent, and we adopt the same mantra at Bob W. But one of our USPs, I would say, is that although they're getting consistency in quality and customer service, in each Bob W, they're slightly different. So one of what the real estate and architect team do when they are designing a new building is that we are basing the design concept on the immediate vicinity of the building. So we've got a new building opening right next to the Tower of London very soon, and the whole design concept for that has been based on the old coffee houses of the City of London, which were the original sort of pubs and bars and places to go and do business back in the old days. And so the design concept is based around that. And also, I guess, to do with our sort of sustainability credentials, what we're doing is for each building, we're sourcing an item or multiple items of furniture or something in the kitchen that is secondhand, produced locally or sold locally. So that a good example of that in the Nordics is that we sourced a load of Artec chairs, which are really cool, modern looking chairs that are in all the apartments that we source from a secondhand supplier. So, and it's obviously educating the guests about that as well. So we'll have little plaques in each apartment that say, you know, these are antique glasses that we got from the flea market in Madrid, and they're different in every apartment. So it's a sort of local, authentic experience, but the really key things are standardized to make sure the quality's there.
Thank you so much for sharing. I actually really love the idea of the secondhand suppliers and sourcing locally. That's definitely a topic that we can get to from the ESG and sustainability perspective. I'm sure that Alberto has a lot to share as well on the topic. I can see Josie absolutely loves the idea. I think that we have a lot of fans of local sourcing here. Alberto, from your perspective, so because you've done the 2 acquisitions in the last 6 months, that probably wasn't easy to standardize. Or how do you deal when you acquire the property from in order to ensure that it will match, first of all, the Casai brand, and then second, that it will definitely meet all your standards and quality control criteria?
So for us, definitely, as you mentioned, standardization and quality control starts and ends basically in supply sourcing. It is a big challenge because you have to sort of it limits your ability to grow and when there's a lot of demand to capture, but ultimately there are certain things that just cannot be fixed. Something very basic, we know very quantitatively using data exactly what are the things that make our guests upset. Mostly it's noise, light, quality of like the underlying infrastructure of the building, stuff that if you get it wrong, it would be impossible to fix. Basically, it would require so much investment that it's not an option. So for us, what we're doing right now a lot is through our acquisition strategy, identify partners that we already consider equally as competitive or as good at operating as us, with as good a taste, and starting from there and really integrating them into the team and looking at it as a partnership. That on one side. On the other side, we're doing a lot of work with build to suits. We're getting involved very early in projects. We're doing a lot of innovation on the supply side as well to be able to standardize. Once we do that, other things that help us a lot in this standardization versus localization is that we really have a hyper local view, similar to what Jeremy mentioned. We don't localize the apartment and the field to the city. We localize it to the neighborhood. And what helps us keep that standardized is that we basically have a series of design themes related to a series of guest persona. And so first of all, we define, who travels here and why are they traveling here? And from there, what is the character of the neighborhood? And from that combination, instead of creating, 50 completely different designs, we basically say, this is a design type B with a certain local flair. And that allows us to appear very localized, because we never put an apartment that doesn't feel in place with the environment, because we have a wide design vocabulary, but it also allows us to not go crazy and have to have 100 different design templates to maintain.
Love it. Thank you so much. I've read somewhere that Casai is trying to really create experiences with a wow factor. So it definitely makes sense now. It's no longer the kind of the opulent 5-star concept, but it's very local and cool, and it's perfect fit, I would say, to what the young professionals today are looking for. I know that we're kind of getting closer to the end, so I would like to move on to the next topic, which is really about the next opportunities for next year. So where would you like to go? Where do you see the company to expand and the opportunities to grasp, Erato?
Okay, so we've actually just raised in September funding round of 140 million USD. So we're in scale-up mode, which means that we're growing massively. The vision of 50 plus cities and 30,000 apartments by 2025 is something we're of course trying to reach. So by end of the year, for example, we're already launching 3 new cities in Europe. That would be Madrid, that would be Zurich and Berlin. In Q1, we're already having more Benelux and German speaking cities, again, Europe. So there's a lot of focus for next year in Europe. However, I know that there's a huge potential, obviously, for LATAM and for APAC. So that's also points of discussions and a focus based on our strategy moving forward.
That's very exciting. That would be your first location, right? Within APAC. Currently, the presence is in the US, Middle East, and EMEA. So
at the moment, as we don't have any presentation in APAC and LATAM at this moment, I consider Middle East as EMEA. So that being said, there is a lot of potential, and I know that we're considering also like that sooner or later.
Fantastic. Well, fingers crossed. So where the growth plan for W for next year? What are the objectives?
So it's sort of 2 prongs. We're doubling down in our existing locations, Tallinn, Helsinki, London, and Madrid, but also going further afield with deals in Austria, Germany, where else? Norway as well. Taking on more buildings, opening up more Bob W's, and then on the other side of it, really focusing on our product and tech side of things. So building out our hospitality engine so that we're owning the entire guest process. So improving customer service for the guests, improve our guest repeat booking rate as much as possible, but also on the financial side of things, optimizing our RevPAR as much as possible. So that obviously plays to the direct booking side of things as well, but also there's margins to be found in RevPAR through upselling and smart algorithms that can automate upselling to guests, adding value for the guests, but also adding value for us as well.
I can definitely see that the upselling is a bit focused. Can you just elaborate a little bit more? What type of upselling are you seeing as popular?
Yeah, so there's the really popular ones are breakfast, which we don't do any F&B on site. But what we do when we take on a new building is within a 500-meter radius of the building, we will source a breakfast partner, usually a cool hipster type cafe with decent opening hours, so we can, have broad coverage for all the guests. And when they make a booking with us and receive their guest area link, one of their first options to do is book a breakfast pack, and that's a sort of monetary value pack that they can go to that cafe and redeem it in any way they like. So if they just want to have a massive mug of strong coffee, they can, but if they want to have food as well, they can. Another thing that we've recently launched in partnership with a fast delivery company called Wolt in Helsinki and Tallinn, which is a recent unicorn actually, is a fridge filling service. Fridge filling is something that I've tried many times over the years, and has always been one of those things where the logistical burden outweighs the benefits. But finally, with this massive surge of all these fast delivery grocery companies, it's something that we can now do. So in a similar manner to breakfast, guests are booking their fridge fill, a few different option packs, paying for it through the app seamlessly, and then when they arrive at their Bob W for their check-in, their fridge is full of their yummy treats waiting for them. So those are the two really popular ones. And then the other ones, which are the 100% margin products that I mentioned earlier, the ones that like early check-in, late checkout, apartment upgrades, these they can all, as per availability, book within the guest area. Particularly popular is early check-in, so they can get an hour early check-in for a small fee.
Thanks so much for sharing. Actually, with regards to the fridge filling and the breakfast, is something that a lot of the operators that we speak to are kind of struggling for the same reasons, how to make it profitable and at the same time not necessarily take care of all the logistics. So that's a great tip, to actually partner with one of these delivery companies, which are surely pretty much everywhere by now. So yeah, that's a great tip, because a lot of the customers, at least from our perspective and our guest experience team, literally deals with those requests on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to own the customer journey as much as possible, but sometimes you've just got to keep it simple and partner with a third party. I mean, we're not a delivery company, so it makes sense to choose a company that's really good at doing that, and is a market leader in their location with a good range of groceries to choose from.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, Alberto, what would be the expansion plans for Casai, or what's on your wish list for 2022?
So in Casai, we will continue sort of rapid growth. We will very much concentrate on dominating the markets that we're in right now, and also expanding to more cities in Mexico, more cities in Brazil, and also potentially more countries in Latin America. And in terms of experience, or in terms of technology and product, 2022 is going to be the year of sort of experience, where we're going to find the more possible ways to improve the guest experience through technology. Our goal here, or our North Star, is recurrence. And again, the idea is that if anybody's experienced Kasai and they come back to a city where we have our property, that there should be no reason why they wouldn't want to stay with us. And that is what is guiding our product plans.
Thank you so much for sharing the ambitious plans and expansion plans in LATAM. Well, as we're getting to the end, I would just like to ask you a last question. It's coming from a lot of the corporate clients' perspective. A lot more often now, we're being asked as an aggregator of verified hospitality partners, whether whether our supply chain does anything in terms of sustainability or generally ESG. So is there any planning for 2022 to improve sustainability or ESG practice within your respective organizations?
Well, I'm happy to take this one first. I think Bob W, I hope we're leading the way in this regard. I think we're one of the first hospitality companies globally to publish our numbers. So 2020 was the first year that we did carbon accounting. So you can go on our website and you can actually see what your emissions are when you stay at Bob W. So I think it's 15.4 kilograms of CO2 when you stay at a Bob W. And that's great to know that. Transparency is brilliant. That's the first step to actually making improvements. But what we're also doing, along with making eco-friendly and sustainable choices in our buildings, such as renewable energy for all buildings as a standard, we're also double offsetting our carbon emissions on an annual basis. So you stay at a Bob, you emit 15.4 kilos of CO2, and we remove 30 kilos of CO2 from the air. So we'll continue to do that, and we encourage all other companies to show us your numbers.
That's really exciting. As for AltoVita, we're definitely planning to roll out a big supplier survey in order to monitor and create some metrics that we can then clearly communicate to our clients, and then essentially really reward those companies which are doing so much already and monitoring their sustainability practice and renewable energy mix already. Erato, any thoughts then on sustainability and ESG in general?
So of course, this is a buzzword that I think is here to stay, obviously. So either in RFPs or in any kind of trends and requirements for large accounts and corporate clients, it's becoming more and more needed and requested. So that being said, I do believe that it's something we will be focusing more also to try to see how we can manage something like this and clearly state it for our as a supplier, because it's first to define it and try to be able to tackle it, let's say, in order to see from there on how we would do it more in a standardized manner. I know that we are already having someone for this as a dedicated role, exactly for B2B clients and inquiries and requirements generally. But at this moment, I don't have anything to share more concrete on this. I know that it's something that we need to be up and running though fast based on what we're facing worldwide.
Yeah, I definitely like the concept, the fact that certainly now it's the buzzword, but it's, like you said, a trend which is here to stay for sure for the next years. Alberto, any thoughts on the current practice and the vision for next year in terms of sustainability?
Oh, I mean, first of all, congratulations to Jeremy, I mean, or to Bob W on what they've been doing there. It's truly impressive to be leaders in that aspect. Being very frank, there are limitations borne by supply and just local practices and local availability of sustainable technologies and how much it is used in buildings. So we have been a bit limited on that. But what we have very much focused on is sustainability as a wider, in a wider lens of leaving a good footprint for the world. So we have we have an internal sustainability strategy where we implement everything from local sourcing of providers, local development of providers. For us, part of sustainability is to actually invest in our suppliers and grow the local ecosystem. If we realize that there's something that doesn't have a local provider, we will work hand in hand with a local partner to develop that company and to make sure that they can satisfy our standards. We also have several partnerships with local NGOs on topics that are very important for Latin America. So of course, because we work in short-term rentals, we invest in home availability and NGOs that help local communities to improve their homes and to put homes where people don't have them. We also have a lot of sustainability practices in terms of diversity internally and of good and fair employment practices. So the values of the company really push through on every aspect. And as time goes on, just as Erato said, we will hope to get more technical about it and be able to put in the numbers. But meanwhile, we have a very positive effect in our community.
Thank you so much for sharing. And well, I can see. Thanks, Jeremy, for the little Christmas present. That's very exciting.
All right, hope to welcome you soon.
Sorry.
Hope to welcome you all soon to a Bob.
Very, very exciting. Thank you, guys. Well, with that was a lot of positivity, and really I've loved hearing all about the success stories and all the resilience that you guys have been able to demonstrate throughout these 2 years, and the very many exciting plans for 2022. So with that, thank you again so much, everyone who has joined as well. And I'll see you next year during our next AltoGuy session. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.